Great. Well, it looks like we still have people that are joining, but we'll go ahead and get started. Just a huge thank you for everyone for joining us. I'm going to turn the time over to Governor Cox in just a moment, but I first wanted to offer a couple of remarks, and then I'll run through the agenda for the meeting today. So by way of introduction, for those who don't know me, my name is Gordon Larson. I serve as Governor Cox's Senior Advisor for Federal Affairs. And as part of that role, I help the governor with his chairmanship of the National Governors Association from the summer of 23 through the summer of 24. Including his Disagree Better initiative, which is where we got to know so many of you. And just want to say how grateful we are for the remarkable help that so many of you offered us. Some of you helped us from the very beginning sort of understand the science of polarization and what interventions might work. And others sort of teamed up with us and helped us highlight what you were doing. We hope that it was helpful for you. We certainly felt like it was a worthwhile effort, but we hope it helped boost your organizations and raise their profile and help in other ways. I will say many of you extended invitations for the governor to keynote events and to participate that we had to decline just because we didn't have to, the governor's sort of schedule was constrained, and that was his time was our most precious resource. So we apologize that we couldn't accept more of those invitations. And that will continue to be a constraint, but we want to do as much as we can to still be helpful. So thanks again. Let me just run through real quick what our agenda is. So I'll turn the time over to Governor Cox in just a moment. He'll offer some remarks. We'll hear from Robb Willer from Stanford, and then some brief comments from Owen Fuller, who some of you have gotten to know, and then Marianne Beret, who I hope many of you have gotten to know, and if you haven't, we hope you will very soon. She's sort of taking over the new organization. And then we'll wrap things up at the end. We unfortunately don't, given the number of people and the time constraints, we don't have time for questions, but we hope that if you do have feedback for us or you are interested in working with us and you're not already in touch, that you'll please get in touch with Marianne if you haven't already. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn some time over to Governor Cox.
Well, thank you, Gordon, and thanks to everybody for joining us today. It's great to be with all of you again, albeit virtually. I can't thank you enough for your kindness and your support for the time that we were able to spend together over the past couple of years for your organizations and everything that we learned from you about depolarization work and bridge building. We loved the initiative, and I wasn't sure exactly what would happen afterwards, whether this would continue. We talked about setting up a nonprofit to kind of move this work forward if there was interest in that. Life as a governor is also a little hectic at times, and I had an election last year that we were working through, and then right into a legislative session this year that's always a bit chaotic, and putting these things together takes time as well. We've reached out, and by we, I mean Marianne has reached out to many of you and Owen and Gordon and others to see if there was still interest, if there was a feeling that Disagree Better as an initiative had kind of run its course, and or if there was still an opportunity for us to work together. The feedback has been overwhelmingly positive, and the opportunities for me to stay involved as well with this new organization. And so I just again want to thank all of you for that feedback and for the opportunity that we have to continue to work together. So just so you know, I know many of you participated with us in the National Governors Association in those meetings leading up to July of last year, but the NGA has transferred all of the intellectual property of Disagree Better to the nonprofit. We have some seed money as well, and I want to give a special thanks and recognition to our friends Dame Richardson and Jerry Mannion as well with the Carnegie Corporation in New York for their kindness and generosity in being an anchor funder for the new nonprofit. We also want to acknowledge two new members of our advisory board who don't need an introduction. I'm sure most of you know them. Yuval Levin with the American Enterprise Institute, and then former D.C. Circuit Court Judge Thomas Griffith. My warmest thanks and gratitude to both of them. Yuval's two most recent books have been really critical to our team in this work, and I've gifted both of those books to every member of our legislature, hoping that it will make a difference, and to many others as well. But a Time to Build and American Covenant are two of the most brilliant books I think that have been written involving these topics over the last several years. And Judge Griffith has been one of our nation's most eloquent and just the perfect spokesman for the ideas of civic charity and healthy conflict. And we're grateful for his kindness and constant advice and mentorship. We also have with us Owen Fuller, who many of you have met, and he helped to set up the 501c3, and Marianne Vere, who I mentioned earlier, who has agreed to serve as our executive director, and they'll talk to you in just a few minutes about our vision for Disagree Better moving forward. But first, I want you to know how enormously proud we are of what we were able to accomplish over the course of a year with Disagree Better. In just a minute, Robb Willer, who's with us, is going to talk about the quantifiable impact that the ads had that we were able to put together, and we. The feedback from so many Americans, really all over the country, who were excited to see elected officials in governors in the governor's position willing to be respectful and model good behavior, sometimes with a twist of humor as well. There was really positive feedback there. I want to thank the governors themselves who were enthusiastic about participating, most of them, and we're so grateful to have people that are still willing to do this work. We did notice, I would just say, it's not just the ads themselves, but we noticed a really subtle and sometimes not so subtle shift in the behavior of the governors who participated as we listened to some of the speeches they gave after participating in Disagree Better, where they were using some of the language and again modeling the behavior that we knew was so important in their public appearances, and they made, many of them made the issue of toxic polarization an issue in their talking points just off the cuff, or when they were doing media interviews as well. So we were grateful for that. The governors, we know that the governors who participated were already some of the best behaved, the kind of the good guys, if you will. But we gave them tools to be even better. Some of them did it, but didn't know how to talk about it really well, or just weren't conscious of talking about it. And that was a change that mattered. I do remain convinced that one of the most important paths to reducing partisan volatility in our country and the animosity that goes along with it, and really reducing political violence, is having political leaders like governors and other elected officials who are willing to step up and model healthy conflict and encourage others to engage in healthy conflict. We need them to know that the exhausted majority still care about this, and I think they do. Again, I think the polling shows that. So my sincerest gratitude to all of you who are engaged in this work. I said from the very beginning that our job was not to recreate or do something different than what you all are doing. It was really to help elevate you, and to try to use the best of what you're doing to learn from you, and just see if we couldn't help do some bridge building within the bridge builder network that is so important. And I'm grateful that we were able to play a role in helping that to happen. So we're excited to continue to work with you in the future. But for now, I want to turn the Zoom call over to Robb, who's going to briefly review the ongoing research that Stanford has been doing, and the efficacy of the Disagree Better ads that we did. So Robb, it's all yours.
Great. Thank you very much, Governor Cox. I will try to efficiently convey the the results of the experiments and studies that we've conducted on the Disagree Better campaign here. As a professor, we're known for brevity. We tend to hit our marks. You give us 5 minutes, we'll come in at 4.5. I think that's our reputation. So we'll see how I do. So first, I want to thank Hagai Weiss and Don Green, who helped lead this work, especially Hagai, who's a postdoc here at Stanford and a professor at University of Toronto starting this fall. So we first became aware of the Disagree Better campaign in really its sort of earliest forms, and that was this famous ad that went viral that you may be familiar with that Governor Cox and his then challenger Chris Peterson during the 2020 gubernatorial race in Utah had put together, where they got together, they signaled and role modeled an openness to bipartisan engagement, to civil, non-toxic engagement, conveyed warmth across party lines, and endorsed the democratic process in the 2020 election. And this was submitted to a large experiment that we conducted a couple years ago in my lab that was called the Strengthening Democracy Challenge. So this was not submitted by either team, but instead by a professor from the University of Utah, Ben Lyons, who thought that this is the kind of content that might have depolarizing effects. And so we conducted a very large experiment comparing 25 different interventions, just content designed by practitioners or academics, what have you, that they thought might have depolarizing effects. And we tested these 25 interventions, including this Cox-Peterson PSA, this now sort of famous ad, in a very large experiment with more than 30,000 participants. And we found that it was one of the top performing pieces of content that we had received. So it led to reduced partisan animosity, reduced support for political violence, reduced support for undemocratic practices, and increased support for bipartisan cooperation amongst, this is Democrats and Republicans in the American general public. So this, got our attention. And when we started to break down why did this do so well in this large experiment, it was because it had features of some of the other best performing interventions that we tested. So what are those? Interventions that correct misperceptions of rival partisans tend to be effective. This did some of that. You're seeing someone, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, you're seeing someone from the other side of the aisle role modeling a reasonableness and a respectfulness that is also a feature to role model or portray a rival partisan and that's sympathetic and respectful across party lines. It certainly did that. It also highlighted common identities, in this case, being, leaders in the state of Utah. And then finally, maybe most noticeably, it centered bipartisan leadership. And this was one of the things we found was really impactful in the Strengthening Democracy Challenge, is having politicians, ideally from both sides of the aisle, coming together and conveying a message together. So, we were very excited to see Governor Cox in his position of leadership with the NGA last year, really try to scale this initiative. And as Governor Cox has already highlighted, many folks participated in this, primarily governors through the NGA, but lots of leaders across party lines. And as soon as we started to see this content coming out, we reached out to his office to see if we could collaborate on a large scale evaluation of this new content. And so what we did was we embedded an experiment in a very large national poll with more than 6,000 Americans, Democrats, Republicans, and so on. And we ran a sort of standard experiment, much like the last one, except now we're really focused in on just showing people. We showed them 3 of the public service announcements that were made through the Disagree Better campaign. Or we randomly assigned some to a control condition. So this is like a randomized controlled trial. And that control or placebo condition was included 3 public service announcements about attaching furniture to walls, which I can say as a Californian in an earthquake zone, I strongly endorse doing this. Any guest is stapled down in my house, like all men, women, and children are affixed to walls. This is a very important initiative. So, but we thought this would be a PSA that would not have effects on political attitudes and would serve as a good control. So what did we find in this experiment? Well, we found that the Disagree Better public service announcements had improved Democrats and Republicans' partisan animosity, their receptiveness to conversations across political lines, and their support for bipartisanship when we embedded them in this national poll. Here, the further these dots are to the right, the larger the improvements. Now, you might ask, well, if you're going to try to scale this in a real political climate, you have to deal with the fact that politicians face primary voters who are not necessarily dying to embrace bipartisanship. Sometimes they're kind of diehard partisans that want to beat their rivals. So would these same positive results obtain amongst even primary voters, Democrat and Republican? And interestingly, we found pretty much the same size effects, if anything's trending slightly stronger for Democrat and Republican primary voters, suggesting you really can participate in this if you're an American politician without facing major electoral backlash, and maybe even, could expect some sort of electoral gains as people see you as a responsible, reasonable leader. I'll just highlight, we've also tested this in the context of a large field experiment where we showed people public service announcements organically in the course of their TV watching. And that led to increased bipartisan behaviors, things like being willing to write to your local governor that they should participate in this, and also reaching out to the Listen First folks to get on their listserv, and also increased receptiveness to conversations across political lines. And then also I wanted to highlight that we ran the survey experiment that I just told you about again in the context of the late 2024 race to see, can you do this kind of content even in a heightened, highly polarized electoral environment? And while the effects were smaller, as we would have expected, they still went in the same direction and still were positive. So all in all, really found positive effects of the Disagree Better initiative, and happy to discuss this in more detail with any folks that are interested. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Great work, Robb. We appreciate Robb and his team at Stanford for their great work. If this stuff wasn't working, we didn't want to keep doing it. So it's nice to know that it is making a difference, and that's been encouraging as we move forward. Okay, now I'm going to turn it over to Owen Fuller for some comments, and then from Owen to Marianne.
Thanks, Governor. I'll be very brief. I just wanted to thank all of you who reached out after Governor Cox's time was done as the chairman of the NGA. He asked that I and some others take on this responsibility of figuring out the next steps. And I was just overwhelmed with the amount of input and enthusiasm that we felt from all of you as we reached out and pondered the next steps, including so many wonderful referrals and people reaching out about the leadership opening with Disagree Better. And I want to introduce you to Marianne Verret. I was thrilled to lead what was a broad and wide process to find the executive director of Disagree Better. And Marianne, as many of you already know because you've had a chance to meet her, is just so brilliant and dynamic, talented, and we're thrilled to have her in this leadership capacity. I know that you've seen some movement if you've been following closely with, for example, the website going live in an early version and a lot of conversations happening. I couldn't be more thrilled about what the future looks like for this organization with Marianne in this role. We're happy to have had the catalytic capital already put into the organization to get it to this point, and then as well to have additional generous donors in touch and committing funds. And that's a little pitch as well, a reminder for everybody who's on the line that that doesn't hurt. And we'd be happy to be in touch with you on that. But with that, I'll turn the time over to Marianne with, again, a huge thanks to all of you for the way you've rallied around this cause.
Thanks, Owen. I appreciate that generous introduction. And deep gratitude, Governor Cox, to you for your leadership in championing greater care in how we engage across our differences. It's an honor to work alongside you all in reshaping political discourse and promoting healthy conflict. Over the past few months, since Owen brought me on board, and as part of this team, I've had the privilege of connecting with many of you, learning about your remarkable work in the communities in which you are engaged across our nation. Your commitment to pluralism, to facilitating constructive problem solving and dialogue is really, truly inspiring to me. We want to double down on what we and you, for what I've learned, see as our value added, addressing polarization from a different angle by leveraging political and cultural leaders to model healthy conflict. And in trying to we're trying to conduct significant outreach to political and cultural leaders and inviting them into the Disagree Better community with the promise that Robb and our other colleagues at Stanford help us make, is that this approach is both good for them personally in their personal brands, and it's good for our democracy and our civic engagement. We'll feature them in new ad content that will run in targeted markets with paid and earned media campaigns. We're going to encourage them to practice these principles. We're going to give them language around how to do that. And we're going to celebrate constructive engagement wherever we see it to incentivize this kind of good behavior. We're also going to deepen our relationship with Stanford to provide us additional insights on messaging. So they'll be an even more important partner to us going forward. And we're thrilled with the extended scope of work that we will have with them, both at the front end and on the measurement and evaluation. And we're going to continue to do some convenings focused specifically on political leaders and faith leaders in sacred spaces like Disagree Better did at the National Cathedral. We want to partner with you, our partners and collaborators, in bringing your interventions, your toolkits, your courses, your convenings, your service opportunities, and other resources to a broader audience. And because we know that politics follows culture, we're going to work to infuse Disagree Better into the cultural bloodstream of America to help tip that balance toward more productive dialogue and positive engagement in our public and political spaces. I'm just really so eager for the work ahead and deeply grateful to work alongside all of you. And if we haven't connected yet and you'd like to, I've dropped my email in the chat and I do hope you'll reach out. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Marianne, for your leadership. We're lucky to have you. I'm grateful for the team that we've assembled, and again for all of you on this call. Given the number of people that we have, unfortunately, we won't be able to take questions, but we are available offline for those questions. Please reach out to Marianne, Gordon, Owen, myself. We're all here and excited. For those of you who represent businesses or philanthropic organizations and are interested in what we've described, we hope you'll consider investing in this. We are very excited to keep creating this content. One of the things we were not able to do over the course of the Disagree Better initiative was to actually get paid ad space. We think that that's really important. We were able to do it all through social media and earned media, and we monitored that. We were able to show that the extensive reach just through those channels. But we know if we're going to reach a broader audience, we're going to have to pay for that, and we think that that's going to have a big impact as we get ready for something very special, and that is next year we're going to be celebrating the 250th anniversary of the founding of this great nation. And so I do think we have a window as people will be more attuned to a spirit of patriotism, to what, where we came from, this grand experiment we embarked on together 250 years ago, and how to keep that experiment alive. And I think all of us are on this call today because we are concerned about the longevity of that experiment. There are some rough seas, I guess, to use a metaphor, that we're sailing through right now. And our country needs this work now more than ever. They need the work that you're doing. And so I hope you'll consider us. I hope that we'll have opportunities to collaborate together. If you do have invites or opportunities where you think myself or other governors may be helpful, I'm willing to make calls to other governors as well to encourage them to participate with your organizations and the great things that are happening in your state. I still truly believe in this country. I believe in the exhausted majority. I believe that those those who are with us are more than those who are against us. We just need to give them some hope and a reminder. And I'm grateful that we have so many good people engaged in doing that. So again, thank you for being a part of this. We look forward to spending more time with you over the coming months and years. And I hope that God blesses you in all the great work that you're doing and that He'll continue to bless this great country. Thanks so much, everyone.